Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Livia, for inviting me to this conference. My presentation is on Wang Ximeng's famous painting of 1,000 miles of streams and mountains, 千里江山图. I will argue that it depicts a story of Taoist self-cultivation, or 修行的故事，道教修行故事. This painting is extremely long. It's 12 meters. It's 50 centimeters high. It's probably bigger than your computer screen, more like the height of your TV screen. And I think we should, in fact, view it as in a traditional way to understand this story from right to left, as if you're unrolling the scroll from right to left and watch it scene by scene. And in that sense, it's similar to a movie, like watching a movie. And the painter, in order to create this movie, has to think about the structure, about the details, and a certain idea, a plan behind it, how to guide the viewer through the landscape. And in that sense, he will be able to create this story. Well, I say the contents of this story is a story of Taoist self-cultivation. I will first introduce introduce shortly the structure. Song landscape paintings have three levels: the foreground, middle ground, and background. The foreground is over here. The middle ground is occupied by these mountains. There are five, one, two, three, four, five. And the background, there's a flat plain over there. This is very peculiar. You won't see that very often. Now, these five mountains, they're all separated by water. So you can say they are islands, but I will just call them mountains for convenience sake. There are two diagonal lines over here and over there, which not only give the sense of perspective, but also a sense of a certain triangular shape to the entire composition, which is also symmetrical. Each mount, or this side and this side, the mass of the mountain mass, they occupy almost the same type, same amount of space. But there's a pattern in there. The mountains become higher, more towards to the left, and then become smaller again. Then you're at the foreground again. This triangular shape doesn't meet in the center, however. It meets over here at this place, at the Z line, at the Z line. So I would argue there's a climax in this story. It builds up following these mountains. It's over here. Or why is this the center? Because the foreground meets here at the bottom of the landscape of the hand scroll. Over here, it doesn't meet here a little bit, and then more and more. So it gives the sense that the triangular shape is meeting at this place. This is also the place where the background plane and the foreground plane meet. So it's a very special point in this painting, and there's a reason for it. I call it the gate of heaven. It looks a bit like a gate. There are two sides. They're like two cliffs or mountains, and where you can go through. And when you go through, you meet this background flat plane. If you see it as a compass, this landscape scroll, there's a north side, the south side, the west side, and the east side. The northwestern direction, that's where traditionally in Taoist sacred geography, the gate of heaven is located. There's also earth door, it's Dihul, it's a bit later. That's in the southeast. So you have a movement from the southeast to the northwest. It moves from earth to heaven, and then again back to earth. And that's basically the ritual journey which is usually performed by a Taoist priest on an altar. There's the earth door. That's the in 3 tiers. The earth door. Second tier, you go through the heaven's gate of heaven, and you reach the summit or the heavenly court, which is usually called, and then you exit again this altar through the gate of heaven to the Digel, and then outside. You can see in my book on the heavenly court paintings that this scheme of the altar, this layout, is also applied to the heavenly court paintings, where the august heavenly emperor is symbolizing this gate of heaven. This is the place where the Taoist priest usually would submit his petition. This could be a coincidence, of course, that this part simply looks like a gate. I would say this is not so. There's a contemporaneous painting, Streams and Mountains Without End, from the Cleveland Art Museum. It has a similar structure at a similar place, at about 2/3 of the painting. It also has, in fact, 5 mountains. You can read Susan Bush article. It has 5 different types of mountains, very similar. And there's another painting by Zhao Fei, also similarly titled 10,000 Miles of Streams and Rivers, Jiangshan Wanli Tu, which also has 5 mountains and a similar gate at approximately 2/3 of the painting, like in a northwestern direction. The pictorial elements are used to guide the viewer through the painting and attract your attention, where to look at, and which make up the story. I have divided them into 4 categories. The path, well, there are 2 main sorts, 2 types of path. One horizontal one, which guides the viewer along the hand scroll, from right to left, following the foot of the mountain or the riverbank. And one other type is vertical, which leads into the mountain. Figures, probably the protagonist of the painting is a figure in yellow. He reappears many times in the painting, and he's like a leading figure, like the leading role in this movie. And there's some other elements like buildings, natural elements like the water, rock, tree, fall, and together they make up this story. This is a summary of the story. We will see each scene, how they make up scenes which are encapsulated, embedded in this beautiful, magnificent green and blue landscape. They follow, they guide you through the painting by looking at by following this path. I was now quickly swift to an image of the landscape painting itself. So this is the beginning. I will zoom in and zoom out. I think this is the best way of looking at this painting instead of a PowerPoint slide by slide. You probably lose sense of direction and place where you are. So now we're at the right bottom. This is like the earth door, the mundane world where it all starts. You can see figures like villages. Here we have a figure in yellow. It's probably our lead actor. And you can follow a path leading to the west. So you now basically unscroll the painting, but then you end here. You want to cross this water, and this figure sitting over here is probably wondering what's across over there. So first he's asking himself where to go. He reaches the other side of the water and now starts living in this villa, a mountain villa. It's at the foot of a mountain, always at the right bottom of a fountain of the bottom. It's like he's entering the mountains. I call these scenes like he starts to live in the mountains. He wants to be close to nature. At the foot of the mountain, there's a waterfall. It streams from here to down here, and a couple of figures sitting at the riverbank. again, you see a little yellow figure in yellow talking to others. This scene is probably called the Guan Pu Bu, right? So watching the waterfall. There's a famous poem by Li Bai from the Tang, watching the waterfall. And this waterfall is a metaphor for the source of the cosmos, the Tao. And watching this waterfall is pondering where does it come from, where everything in nature, where does it all come from, and that you want to seek the Tao. So this is where the story effect starts. This person wants to look for the Tao. So he lives in this home. The road should go around the mountain over here, go back again, follow this path, and he's our scholar in yellow is now entering his next stage. Probably this is his home, and I'm wondering if this is maybe his wife, because she's standing in the doorway, wondering where her husband is, or otherwise it's a servant. We're not so sure. It's very small, but we can see in this little pavilion a figure in yellow kneeling in front of another figure. That usually this kind of composition is called Wen Dao in traditional Chinese painting, or more in Taoism is called Bai Shi. You're seeking a master. He gets instructions on what to do. He's informing himself, I want to become a Taoist, or I want to do self-cultivation. So what should I do? So this is the first stage of entering the Tao. So our journey continues. I should say, I forgot to say, there always, after this waterfall in these first three mountains, there's another road leading into the mountains, but it's going nowhere. I think because this waterfall is like a leitmotif, telling the viewer, this scholar, he wants to find the source of everything, of the cosmos or nature, and he's trying to find it in the mountains. Well, this is a dead end, so he has to continue seeking the Tao, and now he's following this road, crossing a bridge. Well, this is a beautiful bridge, announcing a beautiful new beginning in his life, in his search, in his journey for the Tao, reaching a little village. And now we see this is the second island, or the second mountain. Again, there's like a buildings embedded here at the foot of the mountain, or more inside the mountain. There's a waterfall, and when we look closer, probably our figure is going somewhere up here. Here he goes, and there we see him talking again. I think this place should be a monastery, and why? Because there are two typical buildings which normal villas or mountain homes don't have. First, there's this hut. It's a maozai or maopeng, maoci, and there's an altar, a three-tiered altar. So I would say this is the next stage of our scholar is him receiving, entering the Tao, receiving ordination, shoujie, at an altar, reminiscent of the story of Zhang Daoling, initiating his two disciples above a cliff, and he's receiving training in how to meditate in this hut. You have to lock yourself up in this hut and meditate. So having received training, he wants to enter this next stage. He continues on the path, following the riverbank. You can see a little road going up, and this is again leading into the mountains, but it's leading nowhere. He thinks he can find the Tao in the mountains. It's not. So he probably comes back. As a viewer, you can also watch there, but then you have to come back again. the path continues in front at the foot of the mountains, and then we reach a gated or a fenced little home with inside this hut, and this is probably what I think a cave, a grotto, and then therefore like a dongtian, and this is where our scholar, again this person in yellow with his servants in front of this hut, is doing self-cultivation, but personally, just on his own. Why at this space, Dongtian, these are the sacred sites in Taoism. The feng shui at these places is specifically good for doing self-cultivation, for xiulian. So that's where he continues his self-cultivation. The road, however, continues. This is not the end. He won't stay there. The road continues. It's a meandering road going very far away, all the way over here, to this village, but then it stops. So probably you have to go back again and realize that if you want to reach the other side, you have to go by boat. So again, he has to cross the water, 过渡. There are many passages you have to make. Then he reaches the riverbank again, and he can continue his journey. You can follow the path all the way over here. And now you see he still would try to enter the mountains, but this is again a dead end. But you can see there's a road leading to this more like palace building. This is not a monastery. They're very big buildings, high buildings, double-eaved, 2 or 3 levels. So this, I think, symbolizes the palaces at the capital. This is a very prestigious place where he's arriving, and maybe that it symbolizes that he is invited to court, like Zhao Yin. He's a recluse invited to court. But of course, he's not staying there. He will continue his journey over. Like this is the entire. He will continue his journey over here, around the mountain. Now we reach some like a difficult space where he's coming over here across the bridge. Then you can follow the road over here, and then it stops. There's no road anymore, but there's some kind of a cave. And when you look over here, people are appearing again. So you have to assume that, I think as a viewer, that the road leads through this cave to this side. So, because there's no road in front, there's no path which you can follow at the foot of the mountain. So you probably have to go through the mountain, then you reach over here. And this is like a very important place where you can see a watermill. Well, there's a famous Sung painting of a watermill, early Sung. But I think here it has the meaning of what in Neidan, in Sung, many Sung texts on Neidan, it's called the Heche, literally the river cart, river wheel. It's a watermill which has a particular meaning in these Neidan practices, which is like also a mechanism for reversing the flow. There's also this famous Bayunguan stele of the Neijing tool, which has at the bottom also a water wheel which reverses the flow back to the Kunlun-san, because that's where we now reach. We follow the path, and our scholar tried to reach the go through the mountains, reach the other side, go to the beyond, or whatever you want to call it. He didn't succeed, but passing this watermill, he finally is able to go following the path and go all the way to the flat plane in the background. This is the only place in the painting where the foreground and the background meet. There's also no bridge or boat or people standing here which could carry you across the river. So you're intended to follow this road all the way over here. Again, our scholar doesn't stay here. He will return. He will come back all the way to the front again. And now you suddenly see, again, there's a villa, but it's no longer inside the mountain. It's not top. The mountain is much smaller. He's returning to the mundane world. And you can see him sitting there again, more returning to normal life. Continue again on the path all the way over here, on his way to the 5th mountain, all the way over here. This is a special place. Because here the road splits. One goes over here. I will talk about that later. We follow the path.
We were running low on time, Leonard.
Well, very quickly. So this is the path over here, all the way over here. And then he can go across the water, follow the road over here. And probably we see him again over here, reaching this place. I don't know if this is a chair, but maybe this is a little temple with an altar. I'm not so sure, like an altar table. And then he finally stops over here. But in fact, I just showed the painting, show that the road splits over here. Then you can see the figures. You can follow them all the way over here. They continue again with figures crossing a bridge. And then this is probably the last time you see him. Then you can spot him moving probably across the other side. So simultaneously, the story ends after reaching the flat space. It's simultaneously returning to the mundane world and remaining in the background plane, maybe as a genre. The painting is painted officially as attributed to Wang Ximeng. We know that from the colophon. It should be in front. Chinese scholars like Yu Hui have discovered that, because the creases in the colophon are the same as those in the front and not in the back. Probably it's also truncated. But we know from this that Ximeng was just a student. He was 17 years old. But considering the composition, the complicated design, the contents of the story, it's almost impossible that a 17-year-old would know this. And the colophon also reveals that Emperor Huizong, who was a painter and a Taoist, taught him how to paint. So basically, we can say that this design and the story of Taoist self-cultivation should represent Emperor Huizong's ideas. Of course, this gives new questions, because in modern academic understanding, there is no Taoist landscape painting. I think I try to show that there is. Also, our ideas of Taoist self-cultivation, modern ones, we divide maybe in Quanzhen and Tianshi Dao and a monastic celibate life and maybe Sholu. It's not very similar to this, so we can have a discussion on these questions. Thank you very much for your time and for watching this presentation. Thank you.